Okay. All right. Well, good morning, afternoon, wherever you may be located. I think I've met most of you or may have presented to you here on this meeting here before. My name's Steve Patterson. I work with Jimmel on the Global Leaders Program here in North America and Latin America. I've been with Oracle about 28 years now, doing database related projects, mostly in the last 5 years in cloud engineering, and joined the product management team about a year ago now. And so today what we'll do is kind of go through some of the new features that we've added in the last month or so. I think last month you saw Vivek give a number of updates on some new features, and we've got a few pretty exciting things that have come out. As usual, there are a lot of things, a lot of places where you can learn about these new features. Obviously, there's the documentation, which if I can just show you here, I mean, there is a very nice document that is published out here where we go month by month of every new feature. So you can definitely come back and check that. We also have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, and there are blogs and videos on YouTube about pretty much every new feature that gets released. So, and if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out and let us know, or any feedback as well. We'd be happy to hear that and pass that along to the development side. Okay. All right, so we've definitely been busy over the last year. You can see a lot of new features here through October, and we've even got one that's already been released this month that I'm particularly pretty excited about. I think it'll be very useful in a lot of people's different projects. So you can definitely see we've been quite busy, and we'll continue to keep moving things forward here with some pretty interesting things over the next couple of months as well. Okay, so the first one we'll discuss is using GCP Google Cloud Platform resources with service counts. So, as you may have seen, Oracle has certainly moved into the multi-cloud integration architecture with our Azure database cloud service capabilities, to where Oracle provides a lot of the networking capabilities. Oracle provides the interface into the Azure control panel or control plane. And underneath the covers of that type of an architecture, I think Oracle's certainly looking to expand beyond just Azure, but understanding that underneath we do integrate well with not just Azure at the database. We integrate really well with not just Azure, but also with Amazon and now Google as well. So really, what this is allowing you to do is utilize the identity and access management, to use the OCI terms, but using the accounts and names and user and IDs when you're accessing Google resources from the autonomous database. So the concept here would be you can use a service credential against the Google Cloud Platform to access their any number of services there. You might be calling a web service, you might be calling a function or something like that, or and most commonly we see it where you're calling object storage, right? So if you've got a significant amount of data stored in Parquet or CSV files, you can certainly store those in Google Cloud Platform. And now instead of having an individual credential per user, we can certainly integrate back into the Google side and use that credential from Google, rather than having to create every single one in the database. So very similar to what we do with Azure, as well as what we do with Amazon, and of course what we do in IAM with OCI. Okay. So definitely look at it from a big picture of multi-cloud architectures, being able to use autonomous database in conjunction with other people's clouds. Okay. Another feature that I think is really key for service providers that use autonomous database, we don't see this all that often in smaller customers, certainly, but we've had a lot of requests for customer managed encryption keys, and we've certainly provided that over the last year or so. But beyond that, we've had a lot of requests to have those encryption keys stored in a different tenancy. And so if you think about, I'm a service provider and I want to store store the encryption keys for my databases in my tenancy, but I want to manage somebody else's tenancy, right? So there's certainly architectures where we've seen that, as well as in really large enterprise customers that have multiple tenancies, and they may have like a central tenancy and then spoke tenancies off of that they are using for autonomous database. So the ability here is that now you can use a customer managed key in a remote tenancy. So you really don't have to manage it in every individual tenancy. You can centralize that processing. So definitely a useful feature for what I would call a service provider, or somebody who's managing and provisioning databases for different customers as well, or certainly large enterprises that use the cloud very, very, very heavily. So, okay. All right. Another ease of use feature I think that is pretty important. It's not really that drastic of a new feature, but there is a new button that allows you to now just select latest available timestamp in when you clone. So before we had a couple of different options, and we'll take a look at what all the three options are now. But when you're creating a clone now, you just can simply say select the latest available timestamp. You don't have to pick from a menu or from a calendar or anything like that, or know the number, which backup you want to pull it from. You can just say latest available timestamp. And then it's certainly most useful for when if your database should ever become available, which should almost never happen. But if it does become unavailable, this would be a very easy way for you to be able to say, okay, I want to go back to, what the latest available timestamp, rather than, some point in time that you may, inherently have a mistake and say, oh, I picked the wrong time, I missed a few records, right? This is just tracking what the latest available timestamp is. So now you do, when you say clone from backup, in the past you had the two buttons on the left, point in time and select the list from a list. Now you can just say select from the latest backup timestamp to clone, and then it'll just automatically pick which one you need it to do. So that'll definitely makes life a lot easier, I think, if you're just trying to get to the latest and greatest, rather than trying to pick a point in time or pick up some particular backup that you really want to go after. Okay, so that's definitely useful. And many of you may know we've done quite a few things around sys timestamp and sys date. You've probably seen that in the past, where obviously in the cloud, one of the certainly in a managed solution like Autonomous, we set our operating system time zones to UTC globally. So everywhere in the world, it's all standardized as UTC. But a lot of customers have built applications. A lot of people have written custom queries and custom things in BI tools where they're calling sysdate or systimestamp, and they expect it to have the operating system timestamp that they had, on premise with Oracle, right, where they could set that themselves and put it to their local timestamp. So for quite some time, we've had the ability to, at the system level, to be able to run this command called sysdate at TB time zone, which essentially allows you to control whether it's a UTC base, which is the standard, or a time zone of your desire, right? So, and obviously there's other functions like current date and current timestamp, which already use the database time zone, but a lot of people have written using the sys and sysdate and systimestamp, so those automatically point to the operating system. So this overrides that. But the nice feature now is, instead of having to set that at the entire database level, you can now modify that at the individual session level. So if you're inside of a session where you might want to modify that parameter just for that session, now you can do that as well. So definitely helping bring on-premise applications into Autonomous, into a fully managed database without having to really change the application in any way. Okay. All right. Now, this is a new feature that I'm particularly excited about. I do a lot of development in ETL and data movement projects with customers, and for quite some time, we've used external tools to do a lot of movement of files and object storage, right? And that, that may be Oracle object storage, that might be Azure or Amazon, things like that, right? So an example is, I have a lot of customers that will use the OCI CLI, and there are functions inside of there for bulk file upload or bulk delete, right? So you don't have to loop or do any kind of additional programming. It's all built into that command line, in that OCI command line for object storage. So a lot of people will build VMs and move files around in object storage. They may move it from on-premise into object storage. They may move it from XSCS into object storage. They may, there's a lot of different ways you move the files around. And obviously in autonomous, the object storage is extremely important, because that's really our file system where we can put all our external tables and our data lakes and everything. So this new feature here is built into DBMS Cloud that offers parallel execution for uploads, downloads, copies, and transfer activities in bulk, right? So the real concept here is that now you can use PL SQL and use the database as its own, complete package that can do all of these file movements without having to call REST APIs. You don't have to do anything. It's very simple. You can just point it to a particular directory or a particular bucket, and it will actually move all those files around for us. So it's definitely a useful way of embedding into the database, what I would call cloud native type of operations, where you're needing to move files around, unloading and loading files into object storage. So it does work with other object storage offerings as well, not just OCI. So you can certainly work with that with your Amazon buckets or your Azure buckets and things like that as well. Okay. So this is a good new development capability. I think that a lot of people will be able to take advantage of. I've already played with it quite a bit, because I use the OCI command line quite a bit, and to be able to just package everything inside of my database, run it as a database job rather than having to run cron jobs and set up VMs and patch VMs and things like that. I can just do it inside the database, and I don't have to worry about patching or anything like that. Okay. And I think, another important word there is parallel, meaning it's taking some of the best practices that we've learned on how to move files around in object storage and applying them here. So it performs quite well and can scale up and down as needed to be able to give you the capabilities to perform what the service level that you're trying to achieve. Okay. Okay, that's all I had. Laura, if there are any questions, feel free to let us know. And
okay, great. Do we have any questions? I really like the layout of your slides. That was really nicely illustrated. Thank you. Any questions on that? Does anyone think they'll use any of those features?
Yes, especially the PL SQL
Okay.
additional transferring files. I'm just curious, are there any new procedures or functions in the DBMS Cloud package for that, or have you updated the old procedures?
No, it's a new sub program would be the terminology. Yeah. So underneath DBMS Cloud, there is a new sub program for bulk file operations. Yeah. And
in which version would it be available?
Any autonomous database that's available in the cloud today. It's part of the fleet, right? Think of it that way. If you have something strange, I don't, some customers may have some different things, right? You might be using dedicated, you might be using XSCS, right? So,
I'm asking because I have a special so-called ACE Direct tenancy, which usually doesn't get all the new features implemented in it.
Okay. I wasn't aware of those kind of tendencies, but
yes, it's a strange one. Yes, it's a free one. That's what we get for ACE directors. Yes.
Okay. It should be on the path though for being patched eventually, or does that not? I don't know. Jim, have you ever seen one of those?
No, I wasn't aware that there is such a tendency. Sorry. Normally, as Steve said, these are part of the normal autonomous patching process. So they are already there. They're in the documentation. There are separate procedures. which the name starts with bulk. So you can take a look. I'm not aware of that special tenancy. We can take a look also what frequency they are updated.
Yeah. Jamil, I can update you on that, what it means.
Sure. Then we can take a look. We can get you information about how far forward or behind. We have tenancies that are forward, generally not behind, but we can take a look.
Okay, that's about. I'll give you control back, Laura.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Steve. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for the question, Julian. And now we have Ashish. Now he's going to cover Essbase and what we've got, and we have we're wondering how many of you are actually using Essbase. So do you see the poll just now? Can you just let us know how many of you are using Essbase, or maybe, yeah, who's using it?
Or the question could be, are you like aware of Essbase? Laura, just to help here.
Yeah. Do you want to change that? So if you're aware of what Essbase is, right, so we've got about 36% are using it. So now change it. Who's aware of it? We'll see how that increases. So now we've got 42% are aware of Essbase on the cloud. Right, so is that everyone? So let's say there's about a third using it and about a half are aware of Essbase.
Okay.
Does that work?
Great.
The results, there. That was the result. Does that make sense?
So
Yes, that helpful.
Ashish, this is Patrick. So for anyone
Patrick.
who's using Essbase, please give them my contact information. We love it. The users love it. FP&A love it. We have over 100 cubes. We use it for PayPal Inc. level planning. We have, monthly planning, daily planning. Now we're moving OpEx and headcount in there to create a centralized view into our planning strategy for, revenue, OpEx and headcount. But if anybody ever wants a testimonial, we have done the assessment with all the products, OneStream and the others, Anaplan. And again, Essbase is one, and so is EPM hands down. So just wanted to give that testimonial for you today, Ashish, and say we're still very happy. Okay, so
that's great. And there's out front has said he'll take you up on that offer. So that's great.
I can probably skip
that testimonial so badly.
I can probably skip my, what's the benefits of using Essbase? I can simply say contact Patrick. Nice to hear from you, Patrick.
And I'm sorry I missed the Vegas event. My boss ran off to Paris to do some board of directors thing, and so I was stuck behind keeping the systems alive and the department. So I apologize, I missed it, but I will be there next time for sure. Okay.
No problem, Patrick. It's nice to hear from our users talking about the product so well. And Essbase has been such a product. It doesn't need introduction for people that have used it. And it's a favorite of the people that have used it. So hi all, my name is Ashish.
Let me mention that there's a couple of people who were very experienced with OLAP on the call who might have historically preferred OLAP, but I'm sure that Patrick's testimonial and what you're telling them now about Essbase, they'll be swung around.
Well,
sure.
And Ashish, I don't want to steal your thunder, but we approached you guys about 3 years ago when we were on premise and we wanted to get off and move to the cloud. And between OCI, Oracle Analytics Cloud, Essbase in the cloud, and then ultimately some EPM, which is very competitive if you want to do the predictive modeling and some of the advanced predictive analysis. We created a hybrid that has fully satisfied all of our FP&A organization and kind of given us a path into the future. So if you have your casual users that aren't sophisticated, Essbase is perfect. It does everything they need, the calc scripts, all the things you would normally want. If you have your super power users that want to do some very fancy modeling based on industry, third-party data, those that product's there. And if you have your analytics cloud users that really want a Tableau look and feel to their experience, that's available too. So I just want to say that it checked all the boxes, and I want to thank you guys for helping us, move from what felt like iOS 5, like my iPhone 5, to the latest version of iPhone. Okay.
No, yes, thanks a lot, Patrick. And just to inform the group here, I mean, if I have to talk about customer references, PayPal is on the top of my list. Thank you so much, Patrick, for that support as well. All right, so after that, I think I can skip a few of my slides, but for sure, my name is Ashish. I am the product manager for within the Autonomous Database Group, and I also manage Oracle Essbase as a product, both for our cloud deployments as well as we call it independent but on-prem deployments. I've worked with the product for the last, I would say, 8 years, and before that, I have worked extensively on building large data warehouse and analytics solutions for our customers. All right, moving on. What is Essbase? I'll give a quick overview of Essbase, and I thought the best way to show it is to show it pictorially. Essbase is a multi-dimensional database. It allows you to organize data in a multi-dimensional way. And what you see on the screen here is just a visual of how data is stored in an Essbase application. We have the time dimension on the x-axis. We have measures or on the y-axis, and in the z-axis we have two kinds of metrics that you'll track. Like you'll normally track your actual numbers as well as your budgeted numbers. So typically, data is stored at the intersection of these cells, so that it helps in quick retrieval of the data, as well as allows you to express the data in a more business dimension-like hierarchical fashion. Data can also be dynamically calculated. So what you see on the light green numbers here are actually calculated on the fly when you query an Essbase application. And now, once you organize the data in this way, you get different points of view of your data. So for example, if you are looking at more operational metrics, you would look at the slice, which is actual and the metrics and across different months. If you are having a geography-based hierarchy, then you would, if you're a regional manager, you would be more interested at looking at your own slice. However, if you're doing some sort of a planning or more of a analyst from that perspective, then you would look at a different slice of your application. So Essbase allows you to build or model your business in a way that you look at it and also help in quick analysis. Okay. And of course, it understands hierarchies. It allows you to organize the data in a more hierarchical fashion so that you can analyze the data more how you would analyze your business. So here is a quick overview of Essbase. It allows you for, since it stores these numbers and it's pre-aggregate, or it's a very fast, powerful caching engine, it allows you to access the data very quickly. It has a very highly efficient aggregated storage engine, or even a specific block storage engine. It provides an intuitive end user experience when you're looking at this data through any sort of reporting tool. So for example, what you see on the top left here is what we call Smart View. It is an Excel plugin. It allows you to easily slice and dice through the information within a familiar Excel interface. Or if you're using a visualization tool like Patrick mentioned, you can integrate it well with OAC to visually look at your numbers, but in a more hierarchical fashion. And then what you see on the top right is how the data or metadata is organized in an Essbase application, where you can model your business in the way how you conduct your business in terms of your hierarchies. And then it has a very powerful calculation engine that allows you to work with hierarchical measures, right? You can deal with fetch me all the parents of a particular region and do a certain calculation on it. So it's very flexible in terms of doing such complex calculations. It is typically very much useful in scenarios where you want to perform write-backs and to the database and then do your calculations. Or it allows you to leverage the what-if scenarios. You can build complex what-if scenarios, for example. So essentially, Essbase provides you an environment where you can build custom analytic applications for different areas of an organization. So typically Essbase was a darling or a favorite of financial departments, but with the new capabilities that we have introduced and the ability that it provides, you can use it across different lines of business in an organization, or you can have IT build custom applications for you so that you can do rapid analysis of your data. Okay. I've built, this is a build slide that talks a little bit about different applications and Essbase capabilities. So you can build different kinds of financial reporting applications like custom planning and budgeting. One of the key capabilities of Essbase is it understands like financial terminologies, things like variances. So as an example, if you have a positive variance for a sales number, that means you have exceeded your budget. That's a good thing, right? You had a target of doing $100 sales, but you did $120. That's good. But if you look at the budget number, and if you are budgeted to only spend maybe $100, but you end up spending $120, that's a negative variance. So these are some of the things that Essbase is very powerful. It inherently understands these kinds of things. And of course, it has time intelligence where you can easily build to-date metrics. I talked about what if and scenario management, different areas where this can be used in campaign management, sales forecasting, workforce planning, and so on and so forth. Or if you're simply looking at collaborating with your data in Excel, you can leverage, you can standardize or centralize your calculations and expose the end user as an Excel interface to your users, right? So that you can easily collaborate with your peers. Or if you're building custom applications where you want to build enterprise reporting or metric-based KPIs, then you can leverage Essbase. In order to build these custom applications, you can leverage the APIs that we provide, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the areas where Essbase is really powerful, it's used, and some of its capabilities. Moving on, I want to talk about the different deployment options that we provide for Essbase. Number one is independent deployments. We call it independent. Essentially, what it means is we provide you our binaries, so you can install them in your data center or in any other third-party supported cloud platform. It integrates for existing Essbase users who are migrating from older versions to the newer versions. 21C is the latest version, and they can leverage some of these EPM components that historically have been used, like high-period shared sources, and so on and so forth. We have different licensing options that are available. You can either buy a processor-based license or a named user-based license. The other option that we provide our users, and which Patrick's team or PayPal is using, is our marketplace deployments on the cloud. This is a Terraform-based deployment, which allows you to easily deploy an Essbase application along with the different OCI stack components on our cloud, on Oracle Cloud. And it is customer managed, so you have the flexibility of in terms of how you want to manage your environment, upgrades, and so on and so forth. It provides very strong integration with native OCI capabilities, such as the autonomous database. I'll talk about it via federated partitions, or through other OCI services like monitoring service to get notified about certain events, and so on and so forth. Again, here we have different licensing options. You can either, if you're an existing on-prem user, you can bring your existing licenses to the cloud, or you can leverage the universal credits on the cloud. This one is benefits of running Essbase on OCI. A strong reference to Patrick. We also have a reference architecture that PayPal has built. So please refer to that. But through the So even though we call Essbase customer managed, we make it easy for customers to manage, manage the environment, right? So things like you can easily stop your environment. You can deploy flexible shapes where you can scale up or scale down your instances, increase or decrease your storage, and so on and so forth, as well as the customization capability via customer managed option, right? You can have you have access to the environment. That means that you can do customizations. You can set certain specific configuration settings, and allows you to easily leverage certain server-side scripts. So we kind of give the benefits of the both, like being able to easily manage versus being able to easily customize. This provides a good balance between the two options. Now I want to talk a little bit about Essbase and its integration with the Autonomous Database. Now we all know the Autonomous Database is a powerful relational engine. It manages your data very well. And we did talk about Essbase is a powerful multidimensional engine that can handle complex business scenarios, handle business hierarchies, and so on and so forth. So what we are trying to do with this new capability is bring the best of both these worlds together, right? Bring Autonomous Database as a powerful storage aggregation engine, and then put Essbase on top of it to allow you to easily express your business dimensions and complex calculations. So what we are doing in the first release of what we call this feature as a federated partition is we allow the users to build an Essbase model, just the outline, just their business metadata, as we call it. You build that Essbase outline. And historically, the way you would use Essbase is once you model your business, you tend to load the data into Essbase. That's the normally the way how Essbase works. But now with this integration, what we allow the users to do is simply build their model and keep their data in the Autonomous Database. And then we stitch these two together, right? We bring in the expressibility of Essbase and the data in the Autonomous Database together, so that now you can get the capabilities of Essbase to various different kinds of scenarios. This feature is typically useful for Autonomous Database users, and this is where my next slide comes in. I'll start from the right here. This is very powerful for Autonomous Database users that want to do analysis on their data in a more sort of Excel interface, smart view kind of interface, and want to leverage the powerful calculation capabilities of Essbase with your data in the Autonomous Database, which is sort of flat relational structure. So for these Autonomous Database users, it provides a powerful calculation engine. It allows you to leverage the write-back capabilities and allows you to do what-if analysis on your data. And it provides an intuitive smart view Excel-based interface for analysis of your data. So if you're a user like someone who doesn't like to write a lot of SQL queries or select star, or to the other extreme is where you want to leverage DV kind of capabilities, the Oracle DV capabilities with our visualizations, but you're somewhere in the middle where you tend to write SQLs or you want to analyze this data, Excel Smart View provides a great interface for that. Now, from an Essbase user perspective, as this integration matures over time, it will allow, as we add more and more features for this integration from an Essbase perspective, it will add a lot of benefits for an Essbase user. It eliminates the data load latency that inherently Essbase brings when you're trying to load the data into an Essbase application. So now you can build more like near real-time applications where you can, as soon as your data is updated in the Autonomous Database, you can quickly query the data via Essbase. Because Autonomous Database can support large data sets, like in the terabytes and petabyte size, Essbase applications do not support such large database use cases. So those capabilities where you're working on very large data sets, Essbase can work on top of it very well as well. And of course, we can leverage the optimized in-memory capabilities of the Autonomous Database. So now, given that for an Essbase user, there are certain limitations. So our strategic goal forward is to introduce more and more Essbase features and capabilities on top of this type of integration, so that our native Essbase users can in the future leverage more and more of this capability if the data is residing in the autonomous database. All right, so now for the benefit of Patrick or people that are using Essbase, we recently announced the latest version, which is 24, just before Cloud World. And this is the latest release. And I want to talk briefly about the capabilities that we introduced here. Now, number one is, as we said, that Essbase on OCI Marketplace is a customer managed, which means that if you want to move from one version of upgrade Essbase and upgrade to the latest version, typically, if you're doing a major upgrade, like from older version 19C to 21C, you would have to stand up a new instance and do this LCM process. Or if you're doing a normal patching process, the way you would do it is you would download the patch onto the VM, typically how you would do it in the on-prem. Now, in the latest listing that we have provided, we allow you to easily upgrade your existing 21.3 instance for now to 21.4 via the same marketplace interface, right? So you simply go to the marketplace, choose an option that says upgrade my existing instance, and we will do all the hard work for you. Like, we will do the patching and we'll stand up a new instance, which will be an upgraded instance with all your existing applications out there working as usual. So that's a new capability that we've introduced. In the future, we want to make this capability, improve this capability so that you can upgrade, let's say, from an older major release like 19C to 21C. That's not possible today, but we plan to bring it in the future. The other thing which I have, when I spoke to a lot of our customers, is being able to generate audit logs. Now, this is really required from a compliance standpoint, because you want to know when the users have accessed the data, when was the data loaded, who changed the data, when was a specific cell changed. Now, these are some of the capabilities that Essbase provides, and now we've added the ability to do reporting on top of that kind of information. So we first log this information, and then you can now leverage, you can build an Essbase application on top of it. You can leverage any of the visualization tools to be able to report this data. Another feature for our customers that are leveraging SS is we've introduced a Java-based tool for you to easily set up SSL certificates or self-signed certificates into the trust source. So we allow you to easily update. Maybe you can bring in your own SSL certificates, or if you want to upgrade your existing certificates, you can easily leverage this tool. And from a UI perspective, we have introduced new capabilities or improved the ability when you are trying to define drill through. Drill through is a capability where you look at your aggregated data in an Essbase application, and you want to go back to your source system to fetch more detailed information. So that's the drill through capability, and we've made it easy for users to define drill through reports. And additionally, this was one of the requirements from our partners, and a lot of our customers have been asking, is the ability to execute a REST API, a drill through report programmatically via a REST API. So users can now provide the drill through intersections that they would normally do it in a SmartView grid. They can programmatically give that intersection and get the details from your source system. So you can do this programmatically via REST APIs.
So let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt.
Sure.
So Patrick is asking about the timelines for 21.3 and 21.4.
Yeah, so if we're on 19C and we've been procrastinating on our upgrade because of operational commitments, I'd love it if we had a migration tool, right? You were saying 19C might be in the plan to make that migration?
Yes.
Possible? Okay, good. Is that like next year? Like maybe by June?
We plan to bring it in next year. I don't have the dates specifically, but I'll keep you posted, Patrick.
Let us know, because Because if we're
Yes.
waiting until Q1 after the close and the year-end close and all the flip and everything, it might be worthwhile to just wait a little longer and just use your new tool. So, and if you want a
Yes.
beta site, if you want a beta partner, we'd love to be your beta partner.
Awesome. Awesome. So just let me know what version of 19 are you on off
I'll
the
get
head,
it to
or
you.
let me
I'll
me
send
know. And yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
Yes.
And there's a question there about the architecture as well. I don't know if you want to look at that just now or wait till the end, but just how it works on slide 15.
Okay, let me go there. Okay, so the federated partition. Okay. What's the question on this one?
I guess go through that, how it works. You have a block there saying it works with analytic views. So how exactly does that
Okay.
work?
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, I can address that. So typically how you would define an Essbase application is the first step is you define your business model, right? You model your dimensions. So you say, this is my time dimension, this is my time hierarchy, or this is my geography dimension, and this is how my geography is organized. So as a first step, you define an Essbase application and you define your outline, what we call, or metadata, with your business dimensions and business metrics. Now, instead of loading the data into an Essbase application, the data will be residing, let's say, in a fact table in the autonomous database. Now, once you have this setup done, you have your fact table, which has, let's say, every member of your every dimension that you might have. So, for example, you may have a time dimension, and you may have, to simplify it, you have a time dimension, and you have a geography dimension, and you have a sales metric, right? You would have a fact table in your database that tells me Jan, let's say New York, and some number. So now what you'll do is you'll map your business dimensions that you have defined in Essbase with your fact table and say, my time dimension maps to this column in the fact table, and my geography dimension maps to the New York column, the city or the state column in the database. And I have a metric called sales in my measures dimension in Essbase, and each metric you'll map it to a specific column in the fact table. Now, once you set that up, what we do in the background is, so once we hook this up, we leverage the internal database capability of being able to define these hierarchies via analytic views. So internally, we create the analytic views, and then we have the Essbase engine sitting on top of it. So now if you run a query, now analytic views provide you an ability to quickly aggregate the data, leverage the in-memory aggregation capabilities of the autonomous database. So whatever Essbase in phase one, whatever Essbase can push as an aggregation to the autonomous database, it will push those aggregations to the database, get back the data, and then leverage the engine to perform any complex calculation that you want to do, and then show the data. So the way we do this is you define your metadata in Essbase, map it with your data in the fact table. Internally, we create these analytic views. And when you're querying, we push whatever we can to the database and then perform the other complex stuff in the Essbase engine. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Ashish. That's Dan Galanis. One quick follow-up. Would those analytic views that are internally generated be accessible by us? So if we do this, we could report using Essbase, I'm thinking. We could also potentially report using the raw analytic views that you're creating behind the scenes anyway. Is that correct, or are they hidden from us?
These analytic views, as of today, I can see them in my UI. So yes, these will be visible. However, we kind of, the naming and the nomenclature might be confusing for the end users. Definitely these are visible, and if you understand them, you can use them. Sure.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Great, Ashish, if I can just comment, this is Patrick, just real quick, but the way we use Essbase is, we were all going through budget season, I assume, if you're on an annual cycle. So by the end of the year, we're going to have a budget for OpEx, we'll have a budget for headcount, we'll have budgets for revenue targets that we'll be giving Wall Street, and that's the starting point for Essbase, right? And then you have monthly forecasts, which are really the revisions through the year. And then, of course, I noticed earlier you mentioned you have the actuals. And Essbase is the Rosetta Stone that brings those worlds together to tell our executives how we're trending. It also ultimately becomes our earnings binder, that we report. And one of the keys is we don't expose the underlying data, because often we don't want people to know the global story about PayPal Inc. So we use Essbase to create the security composites that enable us to restrict that maybe you can only see your region if you're international, or maybe you can only see your segmentation if you're a merchant. So Essbase not only gives you the ability to tell the global story about how your company's performing, and also your global OpEx and global headcount, but it also gives you the ability to restrict who sees it. So is that a good way to phrase it, Ashish?
Yes, yes. Think about it like this. You can restrict access to a column and a row of a database table. You can say this row, this column is only accessible by Ashish, for example. You can go down cell level security. That's very well said, Patrick. Yes. And that's a powerful feature as well. Not only that, whether you can just read or write or even update that cell.
And one last note is, depending on how your FP&A is organized, and even your business about who does forecasting and who does budgets and who does planning, again, you can use the dimensionality to determine that people can only do certain products. For us, it might be Braintree, Hyperwallet, Zetto, PayPal Core, or maybe they're only allowed to do it by region, LATAM or Europe. Cohorts, or maybe segmentation, maybe only you do merchant planning, or maybe you do consumer planning. So it really gives us the flexibility to build a solution where the FP&A can not only do their monthly true up, but also do their month to date projections of how we expect to do, so that we can tell our CEO that we're on track, or he can crack the whip and tell people, you better start selling some stuff in Braintree. Right?
Yes. All right. Awesome. Thanks for that. So let me move on. I just had one more slide which talks about the roadmap. All right. So from a roadmap perspective, our goal, and strategically, we are working towards bringing the best of the multidimensional and the relational worlds together by integrating Essbase more strongly with the autonomous database. So we want to bring in more sort of calc capabilities. We don't have that today, but we want to bring that capability for this kind of integration, and of course being able to improve the push down calculations that we do today. So a lot of work going on in terms of integrating Essbase with the autonomous database. Of course, we are working on improving the core engine itself. We have a hybrid engine. We want to make it more robust. We've already done a lot of patented work there, and bringing a lot of improvements while you're retrieving the data. So of course, with the integration of autonomous, it should only become better. For our existing Essbase users, we want to eliminate the thick EAS client installers that normally our 11G customers used. We want to bring more parity in terms of leveraging those or executing those operations via the web UI. And of late, we've heard this from a lot of our customers, is being able to leverage SmartView, let's say on an Apple system, on a Mac. So in the future, we plan to bring SmartView integration with Office 365 so that even our Mac users will be able to leverage SmartView and query an Essbase application through Mac, Office on Mac. And of course, we want to improve our integration with OCI and make it more and more easier for users to be able to deploy and manage their Essbase applications on OCI. So we will integrate with OCI IAM. That's the security solution that OCI provides. We want to tightly integrate with that. And of course, the one thing that Patrick is probably waiting for, and a lot of our customers on 19C are waiting for, is to see how we can easily upgrade them from 19 to 21. So here's a quick update on our roadmap. I did have some demos lined up what I can do is I do have a lot of these demos on 21.4 features, and of course the federated partition feature that I talked about for integration with Essbase on ADB. I have those videos on YouTube, so I'll be happy to share the links with you folks so that we can you can take a look at it, and do reach out to me if you see there's a potential use case in your group or with the customers that you might be working with, where you see there's a fit for customer have their data in the autonomous database already, and some of these capabilities might help them. So reach out to me if you see such a use case. Thanks, Laura. That's it from me. I can take any questions.
Yeah, there's a comment there from Tim Vlamis who's comparing it to a capability like machine learning, which of course it is. But I'm not understanding what you're saying. It can be seen as an alternative front end.
Yeah, no. What I meant was Oracle Machine Learning programmatically creates a large set of objects in Oracle database. So, and the names are strings, so it's pretty dense. But sometimes it's useful to call those specific views or tables directly in something else. So I think Dan's point was not, kind of, he just wants to know, do we have access? That's all. Will it pop up, in SQL Developer so that we can see them and potentially, not within the realm of Essbase, within the realm of something else.
So access to the metadata objects that you've created so that it can automatically
to the analytic, to the analytic views. So they would be database objects.
Yes. So from an Essbase perspective, at least with the version that is out there today, whatever analytic views are created by Essbase are actually visible to our users. So you can look at those analytic views and leverage those as well. We do create some database objects internally, like tables. At least at this point, they are visible as well. But the Essbase engine understands them. So the structures might not be very intuitive, but definitely they are visible. Yeah.
And then rack and stack cubes are what are you talking about? ASO, VSO, hybrid? What do you consider rack and stack?
Rack and stack would be kind of simple roll-ups aggregations. So typically you have, let's say, your geo hierarchy, product hierarchy, and you want to report on sales numbers. You can easily build them. Those are the rack and stack applications where you have all level 0 or the lowest dimension members stored, and the rollups are dynamic. So hybrid applications or ASO.
Got it. Thanks.